Welcome to the Pot.Live podcast. I'm your host, Lenny G. This podcast is all about connecting the community with the thought leaders of business and entertainment in the cannabis industry. As this industry expands and becomes more and more mainstream, we want to educate and entertain our listeners and become your choice and voice for all things cannabis. Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show. Have you visited MJ.com? MJ.com is the online destination where you can find everything you need to know about the emerging legal marijuana industry. Where else can you find the latest original content, news, and trends? Connect to a local doctor to obtain your medical marijuana card, receive exclusive brand savings, and have your favorite product delivered straight to your front door? MJ.com has it all. Go check them out. Welcome to another episode of the Pot.Live podcast. I'm your host, Lenny G, and today we have a special guest, Miss Hillary Peckham. She is the Chief Operations Officer of Etain Health. Etain Health cultivates, manufactures, and dispenses only the highest quality medical marijuana products for the patients of New York State. And Hilary is a graduate of Hamilton College and the Dartmouth Tuckbridge School of Business. Fancy Hilary. And her passion for the medical cannabis community and industry comes from her own experience with chronic pain and muscular atrophy. We're going to get into all of it. Hilary, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Excellent, excellent. So you're up in New York State, where I grew up. I'm down in Florida at the moment while we're recording this. So give us a little background of how you got into the cannabis business.
Yeah, so actually, an interesting backstory. It was all my mom's idea, which I think is pretty unusual. She called me when I was in college, and my grandmother had been diagnosed with ALS, and she was the primary caretaker. And ALS is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, and it's a terminal illness. And my grandmother's physician suggested that we try to find marijuana to help with all of the symptoms. And we couldn't find it legally, and it wasn't something my grandmother was comfortable with, and it wasn't anything we knew about at the time. And so we started researching, and my mom really got captured with what was happening around the nation with all the anecdotal stories saying that this was really having an impact on quality of life, particularly end-of-life care. And so she called me up. I actually was studying piano at the time, and she wanted to know if I was going to be interested in it. And originally it was a no, that's not really my thing. And then I started researching it as well. And from my point of view, I had a hip surgery that failed, and I had lost the use of my right leg for 2 years and had to relearn how to walk, and a lot of atrophy and everything from that. So I started reading and seeing the evidence that this is really helpful for people on opioids as a way of getting off or managing pain while still being functional, which was something I struggled with trying to get through college while I was on a bunch of Percocet and then stimulants to try and stay awake. So as soon as I saw really the impact and the medicinal benefit from this, I was on board. And then the two of us got moving once I graduated, and we set out and found a really great team and put together a really great application and got our license. So
you are the New York's only women-owned medical marijuana dispensary. Is that still true?
Yeah, we are the only women-owned and the only family-owned medical marijuana company in New York.
Wow. So thanks for sharing the story about the family. And I'm sorry some of that had to do with hardship, but I mean, it must be just pretty special to be bonding together and doing something special together as a family. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I'm very lucky getting to work with my family and seeing my mom. She was a stay-at-home mom my whole life, and now seeing her working in this capacity has been really amazing. And then I also get to work with the rest of my family. So my sister is in charge of cultivation. My husband is the CIO. And then my brother-in-law is our head engineer. And my twin is in charge of real estate. So I get to work with all of them. Some days I definitely don't think we're related, but most of the time we get along pretty well.
Now that's pretty special. That's pretty special. I have a lot of businesses that I'm partners with, family members, and I love it. So that's great. So tell us a little bit about, we've had several guests from different states, but I think you're the first license holder from New York that we've had on. Tell everyone, the listeners across the country, maybe some of the differences in obtaining your license in New York. Is it vertical? Are there different facets of the license that anyone can get? If you could just tell us a little bit about the background of how you obtain those.
Yeah, absolutely. So the license structure in New York is that originally there were only 5 companies, and those were a competitive bidding process. Every license is vertically integrated, and you have to cultivate, manufacture, and dispense everything yourself. Delivery and everything has to be in-house, and there's no third-party contractors. What they did as well is they added another 5 licenses, so there's 10 companies in New York. Originally, we were only allowed to manufacture oil-based products, so vaporizers, tinctures, and capsules. And then now we're allowed to have things like lozenges, which are effectively a hard candy, and ground flour for vaporization. We are expected to have, there's a lot of regulation involved, and it was a very competitive bidding process. And I don't think that they'll be opening up the licensing anytime soon at this point, especially with coronavirus. But we are looking at expansions to the program and potentially full legalization at some point.
Well, so you cannot sell flour?
We cannot sell flour. No, it has to be ground and metered. So we sell like pre-packed pods of ground material that go into a vaporizer.
Wow. So that's different. Yeah, that's why I asked you, because each state, it's amazing. Until everything goes federally legal, every state, it's like the Wild West, right? Every state, county, municipality, they all have different rules and laws, and it just makes it so difficult for businesses to keep up and or understand their competition, right? Tell us some of the obstacles in that regard of starting this new business and having to deal with the constant change in regulations or limited regulations.
Yeah, I think everyone has to deal with it in different ways depending on the state that they're in. You know, for us, when we first got up and running, no one was producing products from this standpoint in terms of quality and consistency, and the testing didn't really exist, and everything was kind of made up as we were getting and launching our products. So we had to hold, and still do, all of our products to pharmaceutical standards, and we kind of just had to figure it out. And that was like the first stumbling block, was how do we actually get products to market that meet these regulatory requirements? And then, you know, the next thing is when we got up and running and we were awarded the license, we were allowed to have 4 dispensaries, and you were graded in your application on geography. So effectively, the further apart your dispensaries were, the more points you got on your license application. And so what that meant was, New York being a giant state, everyone went for the major cities around the state. But when the licenses were awarded, the 5 winners, it wound up that there were 3 licenses awarded with dispensaries in Albany, which has a population of 1 million and is very expansive. And then there was 1 dispensary awarded for Manhattan, which has millions of people along with tourists, et cetera, and access to the other 5 boroughs. So like effectively 50% of New York State. And so the dispensaries were also not allowed to be moved until after you had already gotten them up and running. So we had to build out our Albany dispensary, run it there before we could move it, which we eventually did, to New York City. So just like that wound up being a big thing, but you know, things like that where you don't know the consequences till later of like citing your dispensary and then where to put it was definitely very challenging to navigate in New York's environment.
Now, are you allowed to open as many as you want, or is it still limited of how many retail locations you can have right now?
Yep, so we're still limited. We can only have 4 retail locations right now, and we can't have 2 in the same county.
And how many do you have at the moment?
We have 4.
Oh, you do have 4. Okay. I didn't know if I missed that. Okay. And then tell us I guess you can sell online. Tell us the consumer process. If I'm a consumer and I have my medical card, or if I want to get it, I guess you can help with that. But let's say I have my medical card and I want to order from Etain Health. What is that process like for me?
Yep. So first, to get a card, you have to see a doctor that's taken the qualifying course in the state. There's a list of them on the Department of Health website, and then you can get your card through that means. And then if you want to come to one of our dispensaries, there's a few different processes, but basically we'll take it walk-ins at this point, and we put in measures to help make sure everyone's safe with coronavirus going on. But what you'll do is you'll meet with a pharmacist, and that can be done virtually as well. We have New York State licensed pharmacists on each site, and they will go through our product line and look at contraindications with the other medications you might be taking and symptoms you're having. and they'll work with your doctor to make sure that the certification that they dictated it will be effective to treat your symptoms. And sometimes the doctor needs to make some adjustments based on the pharmacist and patient feedback. And then after that consult, we generally go straight to dispensing. So you could come and pick up your medication at the dispensary, or you could get it delivered to you in the 5 boroughs or Westchester, where we're delivering right now.
Okay, so is there a limit on your delivery radius from the dispensary location or no?
Right now, we're rolling out more expansive delivery options, but we deliver to the 5 boroughs, and we deliver to Westchester County, and as well as Ulster County and Orange County. So slowly trying to get more delivery rolled out throughout the state. But the counties that we're cited in, we deliver to all of those.
Now, we are recording this during the coronavirus debacle. So tell us, I know that the delivery for a lot of states and companies was a small percentage of overall business. Has that increased quite a bit compared to walk-ins or retail?
Absolutely. We haven't been able to keep up with demand until we just expanded it this week, because particularly when you get into New York City, public transport has been more or less shut down and people aren't comfortable taking it. And that was most New Yorkers in the city, they don't have cars, so they couldn't really get to us anymore. So we ramped up our delivery process there, and that's been essential to maintaining contact with customers so that they can still get their medication.
Now, do you have any kind of issue with the shelf life of your products because it's hard to get it to everyone and there's kind of a wait, or is the shelf life not an issue because you have enough demand to go through the inventory?
Yep. So particularly since we're primarily dealing with oil-based products, they have a longer shelf life, and the quality that we have to produce them at, they're free of contaminants or anything like that. So shelf life, we haven't run into that kind of issue. It's really just been making sure that our customers can actually access the medication that we have, which delivery has been integral for.
And tell us, as I'm a father of 2 teenage daughters who are both entrepreneurs in their own right, so I just love to hear the story. Can you tell us, were there any speed bumps as far as being a woman-owned dispensary? And like usual, this is another industry where people think it's a man's world. Have you seen that, or has it been easier for you or more difficult for you? I'd just like to get a woman's perspective on your experience so far.
I definitely think it's posed a lot of challenges. And in particular, what I'd like to is in New York, there's a huge initiative for women-owned businesses in the state to try and promote that, except in cannabis, where with the licensees that exist, there hasn't been any benefit that's been given for being a women-owned business. And I definitely think that there's a lot of barriers that exist. For myself, I look very young. So I walk in a room and I look like I'm 14. And most people, I'm networking, or especially when we were trying to get the license, a lot of the men I were talking to were a lot older than me, and they would ask questions like whether or not I was over 21 and if I could even apply for a license, because that was the threshold. And then they would tell me to not even bother, and they'd hire me as a secretary and stuff like that. And I think I've always had a very competitive spirit. And so for me, those kind of things don't really deter me. They make me work harder. But it's definitely something that I wasn't aware of, that kind of discrimination, until I started experiencing it in applying for this license. And it definitely can be disheartening sometimes, the way that people just, really just aren't aware of how they might treat younger women.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2020 when we're recording this, right? I mean, enough's enough, whether you're male, female, black, white, Asian, whatever you are, gay, straight, whatever. Does it really matter anymore? Like, just if you're a good business person, be a good business person. That's the only way you should be seen, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
Yeah. All right. So let's get back to Etain. So tell us, I know you have some cool names for some of your products. Tell us a little bit about some of the products, or the more popular products recently, that people seem to really enjoy.
Yeah, so I'm a music major. As I mentioned, I was studying piano. So we named our products off of music terms. So we have Dolce, Mezzo, Balance, and Forte. And all of those are related to ratios of THC and CBD, which is a regulatory requirement here. So we have high CBD formulations with very minimal THC, and then we have very high THC formulations. The products that we've produced that are probably the most popular are unique to us. We have a hard candy that's made from locally sourced honey, and that is great for people who are looking for something that tastes good, because we can't actually produce edibles in the traditional sense in New York. And then we also have a patent pending product that's a water soluble powder, a lot like a Gatorade powder or protein powder that can mix into anything. That's been hugely popular because it's really easy to measure and dose, and you can also bake with it and put it into anything. So it mixes homogeneously. So I'd say those two are some of our best sellers. And then also our vaporizer oil, pure oil that is very potent and tastes very good. So that's been very popular throughout the life of our company.
Great. So where can followers or New Yorkers find more information about your company, follow you on social media, or get in touch with your team?
Yeah, so you can go to etainhealth.com, and that's our website. We also have an Instagram and Facebook at Etain LLC, and you can find us there. We are also in the process of rebranding, so I'll be excited in the next couple of months to show you our new look and feel, and we're redoing all of our products, so that'll be really exciting.
Great. And we'll have all that in the show notes. So before we finish up, Hilary, our question is, what excites you most about the cannabis industry at this point? And give us something that also concerns you about the industry.
So I think what concerns me is the amount of fraud and misconception that there is in the industry, where people, you don't know whether or not they're telling you the truth. And then there's a lot of perception that it's really easy to make a lot of money, when in reality it's really hard. What I really like about the cannabis industry is there's infinite possibilities to be creative and find space for people. There's so many new products that can be explored in dosage and delivery forms. And so like really from the product end of it, I think that that's going to take off, and I'm excited about it.
That's great. That's great. And thank you so much for sharing your journey and taking the time today. And we wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you so much. You too.
All right. Hillary Peckham of Etain Health, an awesome guest. And we will see everyone next time on the Pot.Live podcast. If you are into the recreational side of the cannabis industry, yes, stoners, I'm talking to you, then thepot.com is the online and mobile destination for you. That's right, THEPOT.com, thepot.com. Where else can you find the exclusive Pot Mate of the Month? Take a pot quiz and win prizes. Scroll through hilarious memes and jokes, and check out the latest podcasts, news, and trends, all while having your own profile and voice in the pot.com forum. Visit thepot.com today and get lit.